Okay, so we have a roofer situation. You're shingling a roof. She needs to know the angle of elevation of the roof in order to choose the appropriate type of shingles. And this particular triangle actually has two angles of elevation. It has one here and one here because both of them are between the horizontal and the line going up, right? But they're asking you to calculate C, and then they're also asking you to calculate angle B. So we're going to start with what we can do. And this, if you notice, is a SSS situation. You know you're going to have to use the cosine law. Okay? And in particular, you're going to have to use that formula that allows you to find an angle. So if we're going to start with angle C, right? We have to use this format of it. And we're going to have to subtract the 8.5 squared, like that. And then I take the other two and just add them like that. And on the denominator, it's 2 times, it's always 2 times 6.5 times 12, like that. Cosine of C. That is 114 you get in the numerator, and you get 156 in the denominator. You turn this into a decimal at 0.7308. If you round it to 4, angle C is going to be cosine inverse of 0.7308. So angle C is 43.05 degrees. If you get to that point, you get 1.5. I know this is not how I normally will attribute marks, but the first angle is 1.5. And then you have to solve for this one over here. I will use cosine law again. Cosine of angle B, in this case, you take the 6.5 and subtract, right? And then you take the other two sides. Don't forget to square them. And you go 2 times 8.5 times 12, like that. Let's make sure we get this right. It's 174 over 2 times 8.5 times 12. That's 204. Ends up being 0.8529. If you get an error, you made a mistake somewhere in here in plugging in numbers. So angle B is going to be cosine inverse of 0.8529. Take the inverse of that, 3147. That's another 1.5 marks. So question 1 is out of 3 if you're marking from home. So give yourselves a mark out of 3. If you did quite a bit of work, I would say, and it's all wrong, I would still give you 1 out of 3 for now, okay? If you did quite a bit of work, you just plugged in wrong values. If you found this one, right, if you found angle C, you technically have a pair. If you use that pair and use sine law to solve for this will be wrong also because you're carrying the mistake in this angle with you, right? If you go back to cosine law, it's basically like a restart, right? You do it all over again. There's a chance you get that one right. That's fine. Did you get the same? You should have gotten the same, Aiden. Did you get the same? Or very close. It might be off at 0.01. Yeah. So if you use sine law for B, that's fine. As long as it's done correctly, no problem. Still get the full marks. Right, moving on to 2. Calculate the length of side A. This is what they want. We notice that this is side angle side, right? 2 sides and the angle in between, right? 2 sides and the angle between. We know it's going to be cosine law again. So in this case, if you want that one, the formula you want to be using is the side you want squared, right, is equal to the other 2 sides squared and added. So it looks like Pythagoras at first, and you go minus 2 times the first side times the second side times cosine of 43. Okay, so that's the line that I'm looking for there. A is going to be square root of this whole thing. So we type that in. .3619 and so forth. If you don't want to write down the whole thing, you just go dot, 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 right? And then A is equal to, take the square root of that, that's 5.42. And we are in centimeters. 2 marks for that. I would say if you use cosine law here, but you made a mistake, I'd say you get 1 out of 2 just for now, right? Because you're at least identifying that this has to be cosine law. So question 2 is out of 2. 5 marks so far in total for this page. Backside. Okay, here you have calculating the measure of the indicated side. So they want this side right here. Okay. They want the side here. But notice that you don't have the angle across from it. So if you go straight across from that side, it's this angle that would allow you to find this. So you can't do it in one shot. You notice that you have a pair. So that tells you you're going to have to use sine law. Okay. So our order of business is going to be sine of 112 over 7.9 meters is equal to, and we can't do anything with the x's here, but we can, because we're given this side length here, we can find this angle here. So that's the thing you have to do then, right? Like you can't move forward until you solve a little bit more. So you have this set up, you go cross multiply and divide. So sine of z is 6.4, sine of 112 over 7.9. Sine of z, let's figure out what that is. And you get 0.7511. So z is going to be sine inverse of 0.7511. I take the inverse and get 4868. No, 4869, sorry. And there's your first, that's your, not quite, I shouldn't be boxing this in, but because I'm using letters, it's fine, right? This is Z that they're asking for. And now I'm gonna, now that I have 2 angles, right, I have this one and this one, I can find X. So that's gonna be my angle X is gonna be 180 minus 112 minus the one I just found. That's 1931. Box that in too, because it's important. So this, now that you know that angle, you can find the side across from it. I'm going to start with the same pair, 7.9 meters, and then I'm going to go sine of 1931 over side x, right? And I cross multiply and divide this way. 7.9 times sine of 19.31 divided by sine of 112. Type that in. Beautiful. Does that match? Oh, answer key is slightly different. I have 2.82 for some reason. Let's try it again. Yeah, 2.82, so I must have typed in 2.82 is the final. This is really what we're after, right? So in your quest to find that side, you basically solve the triangle, right? So you found both remaining angles and the one last side that still needed to be determined. I will give you, I'll break it down like this. I'll give you 1 mark for this, 1 mark for this, and 1 mark for that. So if you get to the final answer and it's correct, you get 3 out of 3. So far we are out of 8. Question 3 is out of 3. Last one. Find the largest angle. So here I'm testing your knowledge of how to do this, right? And we know this is a side, side, side. So this is cosine law. And the largest angle is across the longest side. So it's this angle right here that they're asking me for. You can call this whatever. You can call this angle B, X, whatever you want to call it. So that means that I have to go cosine of B is equal to minus 19 squared. Take the other 2. There you go. Cosine of B. Let's figure that out. This is very doable if you just, practice 12 squared, 18 squared, 19 squared. Type that in correctly. I get 107 positive. And I get 432 here. I know it's going to be acute. It's going to be less than 90 because it's positive. I'm going to go 107 divided by 432. It's 0.2477. If you round it to 4 decimals, right? So angle B is cosine inverse of 0.2477. And notice that I always use all decimals on my calculator. So if yours is a little bit off because you're only using 4, that's fine. I'm not going to take marks off. So you get 2 marks for the correct final answer here. What if we use... You can, Enzo, you can, but that one is very complicated because I'm glad this comes up. Like, what if you use... no, not that one. I know which one you're talking about. What if we were to use 19 squared is equal to 12 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 12 times 18. And then in this case, you wouldn't know your angle, right? This one is very, like when I give you this version of it, it is already isolating this one so that all you have to do is plug in and go. So this would be very, very hard to do. Well, it's not impossible to do. It's very doable, but then you need to do a lot of algebra to get that done. So not recommended. Okay, I wouldn't be using this one if I were you, if it's an SSS scenario. Okay, all right. So this one is out of 2, so total out of 10. Put a mark down out of 10 on your paper, and I'll ask you to submit it. And we'll do basically one every day until we test, which is next Tuesday, right? We start testing next Tuesday. So take some time to submit. What is it, 9:53? So we should be good to go by 9:56 or so. What's the answer to 4? Yeah, 1 second. The first question is right here. Question 4 was 75.66. Summary, if you go to the back of your booklet, or if you just grab a piece of loose leaf if you prefer, that's fine. I just like to have it summarizing TRIG, right? TRIG summary, okay? Sine law, right? Do you have a side angle pair, right? That's the question you have to ask. Like, sine law, do you have a side angle pair? Wait, let's do this here. Do you know two angles find a third angle to get a pair? And so the formula, right, would be, and the letters will vary. And I know the textbook does all three, right? It has 3 pairs, like 3 all together side by side, which is technically true. You could go sine C over C is also equal, but this is in a nutshell what you need to remember. It can be flipped, but you've probably seen me, all the examples, I always start with the angle in the numerator, okay? So what I want you to put down here is the cases, the individual cases I'm going to show you where you can also recognize that it's a sine law. Okay, so if you have a triangle like this, right, and you know the angle, the side, and the angle here, this is called an angle side angle situation. And I call these hidden, there's a hidden pair. Why is there a hidden pair? Because if you know 2 angles, you can find the third angle and then get a pair out of that, okay? That's why I call that a hidden pair. The other scenario where you can use sine law is something like this, right? You have your pair there, angle, angle, side. And the other one could be like there you see your pair and another side here, right? So you have your pair, and this will vary, right? Like it could be in, as long as you see that, this is called, I call it this, you can call it the other way around, but then it's a profanity, right? So, and you don't need to remember these, right? That's what I want to tell you that with sine law, you don't need to remember, this is an angle side angle. Try to find the pair, right? There's a hidden pair on this one because you can find that third angle and then get that pair, okay? So those are the cases where you're going to need to use sine law. Let's go back up and then break this down into a second column, like kind of try to write down the middle. Cosine law, right? All sides given. This is just so you can come back to it and quickly review. If you have one of these, you're going to have to use, and I'm going to put a capital X here, for example, like let's say you wanted this angle and a lowercase x across from it. You would have to use cosine of capital X, right? Over, make sure the x squared is, the x squared is at the end. I'm going to highlight that, right? And then you have, I'm just going to call the other ones a squared plus b squared. Okay. And then it's 2ab, 2 times a times b. That's the important thing to remember if it's a side, side, side. If it's a side angle side, 2 sides plus angle in between. So let's say you have 2 sides like this and you know the angle in between. I'm still going to call this capital X and this is lowercase x. Okay. In this case, you have to use the other version of it, where you go side length x squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of capital X. And I'll just make sure you remember that they're always opposite each other like that. And I'm just thinking of it now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say, put a little star here, and we're going to add a little note here. Okay. If the numerator is negative, you get an obtuse angle. Sorry, push that up a bit. So if the numerator is negative, you get an obtuse angle. So make one that is clearly obtuse, you can tell, right? Greater than 90 degrees. I will do another one. Make sure you use cosine inverse to find the angle at the end. Is there anything that I need to add for sine law? I will add this. You know where it says hidden pair? Use 180 minus angle 1 minus angle 2 to get third angle. and you now have a pair. So if up until now you haven't done much with your study sheet, maybe if you can compress this and get this in there to help you out, then you're going to be in good shape. Okay. I will just add some notation right here, some notation that we're going to encounter not very often, but the province is expecting you to know this, right? So I'll cut this off, so we're kind of done with all of that sine law, cosine law stuff. Notation. If you have a triangle like this, and let's give it corners of DEF. So if you're given a diagram like this, triangle DEF, right? Triangle DEF, that's what it means. If you have angle, if you have an angle symbol, and let's say it's EDF like this. If they ever do that to you, if they say angle EDF, like which one is it? They're mentioning all three letters. It's this one that they're referring to. Okay, it's the middle one. So EDF is this one right here. Okay, if EDF is, let's say, 30 degrees, we will put the 30 degrees in here. So just kind of follow it, right? EDF, it's the angle that's formed by connecting those 3 points like that. If they said angle DFE is 60 degrees, let's say, DFE, where would you put it? Focus on the letter that's in the middle, okay? And F is right here, and so it's DFE, so this is 60 right here, okay? So you got to be comfortable with the 3-letter notation, okay? It's the middle that they're referring to, so you don't have to panic, right? What if they said DE is equal to 8 centimeters? This is a side length, right? Side length between D and E. That's really what they're saying. So DE is just a stretch from here to here. And I'm saying this because I know it throws students off, right? Like you never assume, right? You always have to make sure you understand how that is, because you don't see that very often, right? But from time to time on a provincial exam, they've thrown this at students, and it completely threw them off, okay? So I wanted to make sure you knew. If they had said, and it doesn't matter, it could say ED or DE, it doesn't matter, right? FE is 5 centimeters, let's say, right? So you go to FE, right, between here and here, and that's FE. Oh, sorry, that's 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters. So if I give you a problem, I ask you to draw a diagram, you should be able to do that just by me giving you information like that. Okay. Yep. Yes. So So yeah, for this part right here, right, this one, the largest angle is always across the longest side. I think we can fit that in here. Yes. Um, Largest angle is across longest side, always, right? Yeah, that's a good point. And again, this isn't everything, right? You got to go through your notes. Tomorrow we will do some more word problems where you're not given a diagram. I'm going to show you how to make your diagram. Most questions will have a diagram, but I on a test there's usually at least one or two that do not have a diagram. So you got to like read it, understand it, and draw your diagram before you solve. Okay. Any questions? Trigonometry on an early morning is just not everybody's cup of tea, right? I understand that.